Okay, you're on.
Welcome. Welcome to Unity Church of Pomona's live stream Sunday lesson. We're happy to have you with us. We invite you to comment or share on Facebook if you like. We also welcome any donations that you may want to give us, either by hitting the digital button, or even faster for us is sending a check through the mail, which is to our address, Unity of Pomona, 524 East Pasadena Street, Pomona, California, 91767. And I want to thank you for being here and anything you send us. This lesson will be recorded and will be on my Jan Chase Facebook timeline and history and can be viewed at a later time. Let us start with prayer. Eternal One, within and without, this day may we be open to the wonder and the beauty of this world that we live in. This day may we open to the gifts that each experience brings to us, in spite of our judgment of it, despite appearances. This day may we realize that we are connected one to another across the whole wide world. Let us remember that when one suffers, we all suffer. And this week, as we celebrate Earth Day, let us see the blessings of this pandemic on our earth. Let us give thanks for clearer skies and cleaner water, and maybe even healthier food. As we move closer to our families in this containment, let us also grow closer to the earth in gratitude as we learn how to live in a natural rhythm with nature. May we learn to grow some of our own food, as some of the old food chains may not support us as they did. And may we feel the satisfaction of sharing what we do have with one another. As we move through this adventure caused by COVID-19, may we open to all the blessings that take us into a higher consciousness of who we are and what we have come here on earth to be and to do. May we envision a world that works not only for us, but works for all creation as we learn to live in harmony with all. And so it is. Amen and amen. At this time, I invite our board co-president, Jackie Morrison, to come and read today's Daily Word. The Daily Word is Unity's most cherished publication. It was started in 1924, I believe, and it is read by people from many religious traditions for spiritual enrichment. Jackie.
Good morning. As Reverend Jan said, the Daily Word is read by people all over the world to affirm truth and raise consciousness. The word for today is understanding. The affirmation is, I open myself to spiritual understanding. I open myself to spiritual understanding. When I feel frustrated by a personal or professional challenge, or feel unsafe or concerned about a situation or event, I seek greater understanding. When I try to understand, I open my heart. Maybe I just need to gather more information or request the advice of someone I trust. If I am in conflict with someone, I practice understanding by listening with a curious mind and loving heart. I grow in spiritual understanding when I discern and heed my inner guidance. Beyond conscious thought, spiritual truth begins to illuminate my consciousness. As I release all that stands in the way of understanding and stand firm in the love that calls it forth, I am guided by my growing spiritual understanding. And from Psalm 119, 144, your decrees are righteous forever. Give me understanding that I may live.
Thank you, Jackie. Unity lessons are guidelines. We invite you to take what works for you and leave the rest. Today's lesson is called Say Yes to Your Adventure. I like to start with some humor because it not only lifts up our spirits, but it also boosts our immune system, something we really want to bolster in this time of viruses. So I encourage you to laugh a lot. Here is the thought for today. I hope the weather is good tomorrow for my trip to Puerto Vallarta. I am getting tired of Los living room. I think many of us can relate to that, right? We're isolated, we're feel often shut into our homes with people that we love, but there is that but, a little too much or more connectedness than we're used to, shall we say that. Unity's co-founder was Charles Fillmore, and he was 94 years old when he wrote this. I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm as I spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me. I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm as I spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me. Boy, wouldn't it be great to get out of bed with that zeal, that ready to go energy, knowing that you're here for a reason and that there are things that are yours to do that are important things. They're a part of your purpose. Here we are in the middle of a million changes in our life, in our way of life, and we have choice about how we see those changes. We can lament them, wishing that things were back to the old normal, or we can choose to see life as an adventure, one in which we don't know what is coming next, and we don't, do we? But one in which we can be curious about, excited about, trusting God and good is in the middle of it all. And we can know at some level that not only is all well, but what is calling us up into a higher and higher consciousness. The world needs that, right? A higher consciousness. There's a physiological connection between fear and excitement. Why do we think so many people like to watch horror movies? Not I, but many. As I was researching for this lesson, I found a blog by Tamara Starr, and this is what she writes. Your mind is a wonderful thing. It is through the conscious mind that the same experience for one person may be gut-wrenchingly fearsome, and for another an absolutely exhilarating thrill. Physiologically speaking, arousal is arousal is arousal. Your body is primed for action when aroused. The adrenaline that courses through your body when you're scared is the same adrenaline that courses through your body when you're excited. An elevated heart rate and dilated pupils keep your body ready to see what's going on and then move. Whether that something is dangerous, like a boogeyman in a dark house, or something fun, like a challenging ski run ahead of you. For most of us, when we see life as fearful, what do we do? Do we run? Do we hide? Do we put on our armor to protect ourselves with apprehension of what may come next? For most of us, when we see life as an exciting adventure, what do we do? I think we go for it with enthusiasm, right? With anticipation. As I was researching, I came across another blog that had an exercise in it that helps us distinguish apprehension from anticipation, or fear from excitement. And it helps us also shift it and see how very close together we experience these emotions in our body. Claire Hossa writes that we can use the power of our intention to move that feeling of scared or nervous physically into excitement. So I invite you to join me in this exercise. Number 1, think about something not too big, not too overwhelming, something small that you want to do, but that you feel a bit nervous or apprehensive about. Now, we're just playing with this technique, okay? And you can play with it later as well. So take a moment to just think of something small that you're a little apprehensive about doing. And notice where you feel that. Usually it's in your stomach area that you feel this emotion. Take a moment to find that feeling, that sensation of apprehension over some upcoming event. And then imagine that you're moving that sensation 2 inches to 5 inches upward in your body. Maybe from your lower abdomen to your mid-abdomen, or your lower stomach to your upper stomach. Wherever you find it, shift it. Let your consciousness move it up. And notice what happens. What happens to that emotion? Is it transformed? Is it shifted? Is it changed? For some of us, this simple technique is enough to turn apprehension into anticipation. And from anticipation, it's a much smaller step to turn it into bubbling excitement. It's much easier and nicer to go through the world with a sense of bubbling excitement, isn't it, than with apprehension. If you didn't get the expected results this time, I invite you to try it again later. Moving from fear to excitement doesn't just make us feel better. It shifts our focus away from problems and towards potential solutions, what many in Unity call the golden key. It improves our performance at whatever the task is. The more we play with this, the easier it becomes, until we find that it becomes an instinctive reaction, and life becomes less serious, more exciting, more fun, more playful. I want that, do you? Yeah. I invite you to think about some times in your life when you've moved from fear to excitement, from apprehension to anticipation, or even to a sense of adventure. Do you remember going to kindergarten or school, your first day of school, when I went to that big building far from home, I was terrified. It took me a while to begin to see that school and learning was indeed a great adventure. Then I began to look forward to what it offered me in terms of learning and friendships and fun. After I graduated from college, my husband and I signed up to join the Peace Corps, and we ended up living in Venezuela for a year and then in Zambia, Africa for 2 years. This is where my sense of life as an adventure really grew. I did not have family around me except for my husband. I didn't have old friends there around me. Everything was new. I didn't have old patterns to step into. I was not living out of what was, but what is in the now moment. And I had to bring a sense of curiosity and a sense of adventure into the picture in order to make this work for me. My entire body was alive in a way it had never been before, because there was always this anticipation of what was going to happen next, what was going to unfold next. After I returned to the States and started my family, my life, my job became more patterned. The only time I didn't have patterns were when I traveled to Kansas City to visit Unity headquarters. I would go to Unity not with any plans at all, but to just see what would unfold. And so these trips, which I took every 2 weeks, would be a great adventure for me. I felt like I became a part of a universal flow, a grand plan, and miracles would pop up. I would run into people that, for old friends that I hadn't seen in years, as I listened to my guidance and just worked on following, doing that inner listening, and then obeying what that little still small voice in me was saying. I loved it because it brought me a sense of freedom and a sense of streaming, that I was being supported by the universe. Now we've been thrown out of our comfortable nest of routines and thinking and feeling that we're in control of our lives and that we know what comes next. We don't, do we? We don't know what comes next. Now we have the opportunity to see COVID-19 as the adventure that it is. Who would have ever thought that we would be living in isolation with deserted streets, closed stores and restaurants, closed trails and beaches? Would you have ever guessed that you could be arrested if you didn't wear a mask into the bank instead of if you did? Many of us have heard the story of Helen Keller, who was born in 1880. She became ill when she was 19 months old, and she was left blind and deaf for the rest of her life. And yet she was able to break through her sense of isolation with the help of her miracle worker teacher, Anne Sullivan, who helped her learn to use her other senses to explore the world. Helen explored how to overcome her disabilities in various schools, learning to read Braille and learning to read lips by putting her fingers on the speaker's lips and on the speaker's throat. After attending Cambridge School for Young Ladies at 16, she won admission to Radcliffe College, where she graduated cum laude in 1904. Imagine that. Just imagine. Helen became a world-renowned author, educator, and indeed speaker. She wrote a number of books about her life and began lecturing, lecturing, in 1913, going around the world several times, speaking to amazing audiences. and amazed audiences. She also co-founded the American Civil Liberties Union, among other actions, where she was working to improve the treatment of people with disabilities like blindness and deafness. Why am I talking about Helen Keller? One of her most famous quotes is, "Life is either a daring adventure or nothing." I doubt if any of us have had challenges as difficult to overcome as Helen did. And yet wisdom pours out from her experience into the world and into our hearts. Another of her quotes, "Believe when you are most unhappy that there is something for you to do in the world. As long as you can sweeten another's pain, life is not in vain." Helen took her political stands speaking against the war, that would be the First World War, and against the inequality of wealth. Some of my friends may love this quote, "The country is governed for the richest and for the corporations, the bankers, the land speculators, and for the exploiters of labor. The majority of mankind are working people. So long as their demands, the ownership and control of their livelihoods, are set at naught, we can have neither men's rights nor women's rights. The majority of mankind is ground down by industrial oppression in order that a small remnant may live in ease." Now, this was spoken probably 100 years ago, and yet it is still true, unfortunately, isn't it? You can see and imagine what an adventure life was for Helen. In fact, I spent 3 hours, or maybe 4 last night, saving her quotes, which were totally inspiring and amazing, and it wasn't until I talked to Jackie Morrison today, or last night afterwards, that I understood that she was a New Thought person. Her teacher was Swedenborg. No wonder I resonated with her wisdom. Helen understood that true happiness is not attained through self-gratification, but through fidelity to a worthy purpose. Fidelity to a worthy purpose. If we find our purpose, we begin to find our happiness. She said, "I can see that, and that is why I can be happy in what you call the dark, but which to me is golden. I can see a God-made world, not a man-made world." That shift in perception makes all the difference. And so I imagine that her blindness helped her see the truth of this being a God-made world. Sometimes we're blinded by our eyes, aren't we? When we're able to trust that there is a power within and around us that is in charge of our life and our world, it's much easier to step out in faith into this adventure called life. Joseph Campbell, the author of The Hero's Journey and The Power of Myth, among other books, writes, "The big question is whether you are going to be able to say a hearty yes to your adventure. Whether we are a little child who can't go to school now, or a dad or a granddad, a mom or a grandma who has lost their job in this time of isolation, a family that's trying to cope with a house full of people, or a person feeling isolated in a very empty home. Whether we're a homeless person living on the street, often in the rain or snow, or someone fearing too much crowding in a jail or prison. We are all heroes on our own grand journey. We continue to learn from the book, The Secrets of a Bulletproof Spirit, How to Bounce Back from Life's Hardest Hits by Azim Khamisa and Gillian Quinn. Today's chapter is Say Yes to Your Adventure. You can get a signed copy of this book through Azim's Tariq Khamisa Foundation at tfk.org. Azim's life was transformed into an adventure by the action of a bullet that took his son's life. His life changed the moment that he heard that his 20-year-old son Tariq had been murdered by a young gang member. It was then that Azim stepped into his life's purpose to stop kids from killing kids and to teach the power of forgiveness, which he found by forgiving his son's killer, Tony. He founded the Tariq Khamisa Foundation in his son's honor and has been working with Tony's guardian, plus Felix, and Tony to set up programs to stop violence and to bring peace throughout many San Diego school districts. He also became a global speaker and author on the topic of forgiveness and restorative practices. In this series, Bulletproof People know the truth of their being, that they are eternal beings here on earth for a purpose. They are able to take the challenges, the changes, the tragedies of life that they call hits and bounce back from them, making them and turning them into adventures of living on purpose. Azim Khamisa and Gillian Quinn write, if you want to be spiritually bulletproof, you need to believe that you and your life actually matter in the grand scheme of things. If you don't believe this, you are going to have a hard time dealing with adversity, because all the heartbreaking hits in life hand you will be like meaningless suffering. Spiritually bulletproof people think of themselves as heroes on a kind of a quest. All that happens to them, good and bad, is part of the myth they see themselves living. I'm one of the most blessed people on earth right now, for I am connecting to so many heroes in my Unity Church and in my city of Pomona, California. In the midst of this pandemic, I'm involved in 3 community teams. The first team is our Compassionate Pomona team. We've shifted, at Andrew's suggestion, from meeting once a month to meeting every week, because in this ever-changing world, we know that we need to find ways to deal with the situations that are all changing. There is this big willingness to help, willingness to make a difference. This week, we held a sky breathing course for our community to not only relieve stress, but to help others relieve stress. One of our members at our meeting presented a coloring book for young children on how to deal with coronavirus. Another member came up with an idea to create safety from the virus at bus stops and to remind people, to remind everyone about the importance of compassion. Still another is providing deserted school gardens to help feed those who have lost their jobs. And the homeless youth may be given a dorm room at a local university because of the conversations that we are having. And this is just the beginning of the joy of working together, for we all are creating resources for individuals and for families to do things together to build health, to build well-being, as well as to build compassion. The second team that I'm a part of is our mayor's COVID task force, which has divided us into teams with many needs to deal with the many needs in our community, and I have been asked to serve on the basic needs team to look at food and shelter resources. The third team is our Pomona Promise team of community leaders, which is activating resources in our 5 areas of interest and publicizing them. All of the members of the teams are positive, willing, helpful, caring, cooperative, and excited about the possibilities. I would say that they, like me, find themselves in the midst of this time where many are afraid, in this time of all these changes, that they are experiencing this somewhat as an adventure that is calling all of us to a higher consciousness. These are ordinary people, and yet they feel the need to step up and step out to achieve things for the greater good. We seem to know that together we can do amazing things. Helen Keller had a quote about this. Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much. Azim Khamisa reminds us that spiritually resilient people know that there is a reliable pattern at work in the universe. When they face an obstacle and surmount it, they are rewarded with new knowledge, personal power, and wisdom. Awareness of this pattern allows them to reframe the hits they take as not only a natural part of life, but even as vehicles for spiritual growth. The daily word yesterday was, I lean into the adventure of life. Every day I receive Madison Taylor's blog called Daily Om. She reminds us, when life takes us to places we didn't consciously want to go, we often feel as if something has gone wrong, or we must have made a mistake somewhere along the line, or any number of other disheartening possibilities. This is just life's way of taking us to a place we need to go for reasons that go deeper than our own ability to reason. These hard knocks and trials are designed to shed light on our unconscious workings and to deepen our experience of reality. These hits come with gifts which humble us when we realize that we are not in control. In that more than humble state, we soften. We soften into the mystery of life, which lightens us and even takes us into the joy that is buried deep within our essence. She says we emerge transformed, lighter, brighter, braver, and more confident for having moved through that darkness. I invite you to meditate on a few questions that come in our Bounce Back Boot Camp. Say yes to your adventure. So I invite you to take these in. I'll post them later on this Facebook page. Number 1, make a list of your favorite heroes and watch films or read books or research them. Look at the challenges they face and name those challenges. Do you relate to these heroes? Do you relate to their challenges? Just bring to mind several of your heroes right now, present day or past day. Number 2, what did they learn on their hero's journey? Do you connect to these lessons? What did they learn? And do you connect with what they learned? third one, list the qualities of your hero's journeys. List one quality for each hero. If you see these qualities and value them, know that they are within you as well. Whatever you see in another is within you. And if they are heroes to you, then you put great value on these qualities. What qualities do you see? And then I invite you to pair up what you might call your trials, your hits, your heartaches, your heartbreaks, your failures, your losses, and other bullets that you've taken. And pair those up with your revelations, your lessons, the wisdom that you've gained, your insights, your knowledge, your personal growth that have emerged from these trials. There is a connection. And once you realize this connection, you will be soaring on a great adventure. I invite us to affirm twice daily, beneath and beyond all my layers, I am a bulletproof spirit. Together, beneath and beyond all my layers, I am a bulletproof spirit. Your soul has called you to an adventure here on earth. Step up, step out into the unknown. Trust the universe to guide you through the mysteries, through the heartbreaks, and into a full and joyous awareness of who you are and how important you are in the scheme of this unfolding world. And so it is. And now I invite us to close with our prayer of protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And so it is. Namaste. I see the beloved within each of you. Andrew usually invites me to put out our announcements now. And so on Wednesday evenings, I invite you to join us for a Zoom meditation at 6:30 Pacific Daylight Time. If you want an invitation to this, please put it in the, put your email address, message me, or send it to me somehow, and I'm happy to send you that invitation. Andrew, do you have anything to say? You shared something very beautiful at the beginning of this. Would you share that with us?
Okay. Well, hi everybody. Just my brief message before we started this podcast was that I came in here last week with a really bad tension headache all the way down to my back, and I had been suffering a migraine for a few days. I think I was kind of cranky and probably not the best person to be around, especially in my house. Things had kind of piled up and got to me, I think, last week. However, coming over here and hearing the message I needed to hear, and a little bit of love and wisdom to go along with that, really helped me to shift my perspective. And I let go of some things, and I let in some other things. So I think in this time of crisis, community-wide and worldwide, me being a new father, I have 2 small children, And I realized that I really needed to give up and give in to them, in the sense where I had a difficult time managing work, community work, housework, along with parenting. So I'm not a good multitasker at that, and I've come to realize it. So I only do one thing at a time. And when I'm with my children now, I'm with my children, and I play with them, and I laugh with them, and I be one with them. And ever since I gave into that, I feel so much better and relieved. I'm not getting as much work done, but I'm having a lot more fun. So I thank all the wisdom keepers that are out there in this world that are helping guide us through this community-wide event. And I realize that through wisdom, from myself at least, through wisdom I find relief and a little bit of light in this world. So thanks for joining us today. I hope you guys have a great day and a great week. And remember, it is Earth Day coming up soon. So maybe you could do your part and plant a flower, plant a tree, walk barefooted for 30 minutes, and just do your part in sharing the love with nature and your family.
Thank you for his technical assistance, so they don't think we're having church.
So we give thanks for Andrew's technical assistance and for his wisdom and guidance in our community and here at Unity. Thank you. Enjoy this week. Hope to see you next week. Bye-bye.